Today I'm talking to Tim Worley, a former University of Georgia All-American and NFL first-round draft running back. Tim was a superstar athlete playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Bears, but his career was derailed by drug and alcohol abuse. A nationally broadcast incident with a Smyrna, Georgia police officer was Tim's wake-up call to find his identity outside of sports and fulfill his purpose as a leadership educator, life skills consultant, and motivational speaker. I'm Tai Chi. At 19, I was a superstar, and I was lost inside. I left it all behind, switched continents, and started all over. Years later, I found myself lost again, this time in the American dream. This is a story about awakening, about living the life you were created for, about going inward and discovering the joyous and purposeful person you and I are both meant to be. This is Waking Up in America. I am so excited to have Tim. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So when I became American citizen, they asked me questions about American football. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a Croatian thing, obviously, but it is such a huge part of American culture.
Yes.
And here you are. You have an amazing story. And I know that there's many viewers out there who, when I say Tim Worley, they know your story. And you're going to give us a little bit, I'm going to ask you questions that I want answered.
Okay.
So you say in your story, you say how you always knew you had the gift. Mm-hmm. So take us there.
Well, I was born in a little small town in North Carolina, Lumberton, Robeson County, and a very, very poor county. Raised in a pretty decent community. My parents were factory workers, and my mother and father had 5 boys, and we all played sports. And back then, sports was all we had. We wasn't in the house with video games and stuff back then. And I was blessed with the gift to play just about every sport, not just football, but baseball, basketball, track and field, I even play soccer. I had an opportunity where I believe that I could have played Major League Baseball if I would have stuck with it. But football, for some reason, was that thing that grabbed me, and I wanted more of it, football and track and field, because it was an aggressive sport. And dealing with some of the things that I dealt with as a little child, it was a frustration release for me. I was All-American running back in high school, All-American running back at the University of Georgia, and then drafted into the first round. But that's where my gifts took me. And it's all God-given. And he gave that to me, and I used them, and they got me in some of the places that what you're seeing today. Yes. And just the platform now from my athletic background opens up a lot of doors for me today.
So many of our kids, we demand that they sit quietly in the classroom. Where do they have that chance to yell and, like you said, that energy, that God-given energy to run and be competitive and win and whatever you felt?
There's some neglect in some areas because technology today, it keeps you in the house more now. I mean, you can sit at home and, I look at the internet, and a lot of people say the internet is a blessing and a curse at the same time because you have access to whatever you want to with the press of a button. And when you look at the athletic side of it, there's a lot of young kids out there. They think that they can take what they're doing on a video game and simulate that and have that same response out on the field or on the basketball court or on the baseball diamond. It's not going to work that way. You got to get out there and you got to work your bodies. You got to put in the time. My goals that I reached being an athlete from high school to the NFL, I worked my butt off to get there. It came natural, but there's some things that I had to do to make myself better, strength-wise, or doing the things that I really didn't want to because, if I felt tired or lazy or didn't feel like it, that's the time where I pushed myself to go out and train, to go run stadiums, to go run hills, to run around campus with weights on my shoulders and stuff like that because I wanted to be better. There was a time in my life as an athlete where I felt like there was nothing I couldn't do,
Wonderful.
and that was powerful.
Well, you put all these hours that, kids today put so many hours in video games. And if you put those hours in exercise or in training, like you said, you're going to see results.
You have to put in the time and you have to put in the work to be successful.
What was driving you to be successful?
I didn't feel good about myself. I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt inferior to a lot of things. I got teased a lot by my family because of how dark my skin was, even within my family, and I felt like the things that I saw physical abuse between my father and my mother, not toward us, but toward my mother whenever my father was intoxicated. And so what do you do when you see those things when you're a young kid? How do you release that frustration? How do you deal with that as a 10, 12-year-old kid, and you respect your parents no matter what they do? And so I saw that frustration. I was able to release that in sports. I was able to release it on the ball diamond, on the football field, the basketball court. But football was such an aggressive, violent sport, and I gravitated to that. And I figured if I could go on the field and knock somebody in the mouth and not go to jail for it, count me in. I'm all for that. And so add that to the gift that God already gave me to play any sport, and that just made me more aggressive. And I was able to take it to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. So,
would you say it was who you were meant to be?
Sports is not who I am. I used to think that. I love to compete. I was a guy, I loved to compete because I didn't feel good about myself back in the day when it came to being in the classroom. I was the one that would never raise his hand, even if I knew the answer, because I wasn't too sure about myself. But I was very sure about myself Friday night on the football field. I was very sure about myself on the basketball court,
right,
on the track. Even when I wasn't competing, if there was a little kid that wanted to race me or something, I wouldn't let him beat me, right, because I was that competitive. And but I was always competitive, and I love that part about me because it just translated over into what I'm doing today. You know what I mean? But it was a beautiful thing, and I took it. I had an opportunity, and I took advantage of it.
Yes, and the reason why I asked that because so many of us do end up identifying with our strengths and then with what we do, mm-hmm, what our gift is, mm-hmm, to a point where it becomes, we think that is who we are.
Right.
And I don't think that that's who we are. We are spiritual souls
That's
that
right.
God made us to be, right? And this is just how we manifest this.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be football or singing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is why so many stars, athletes, or singers or actors get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And you got stuck in that place.
Yes, I did. I took on this identity because that when I took that on, I felt good about myself. That was my sanctuary. When you come in this sanctuary, you're going to have to battle. And so I took on the identity that I was only an athlete. That's all I could do.
And it was great.
Right.
You were the first rookie that got $1 million
right.
deal, right?
With the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean,
yes.
that's a huge validation,
mm-hmm.
and that feels good, and there's
mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that.
Right. But there, like you said, we're spiritual beings, and there was so much more to me than just an athlete. But I took that on, and when I tried to release it, it was hard for me. I ended up retiring from the Chicago Bears in 1996. And for so many years, I didn't know what to do with myself because I took on that. It was hard for me to drop that identity. And it had me stuck. And we talked about fear earlier. That's what had me in fear because I didn't know how to make that transition into a normal lifestyle. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to sit down and go and do a 9 to 5 or anything like that because, you know, at 10 years old, I'm playing sports until I'm 30. Now it's over.
Right. You don't know how to just sit and be.
Right.
I understand that, and I know that even the people who have maybe not have been stars or achieved that success can understand that. Even when your dishes are clean and your kids are off the bed, can you sit with yourself knowing who you are?
Yeah, I never knew who I was. I thought I did. But when it was over for me, the sport, that's when, my first wife, it was like, okay, hi, I'm Tim, who are you? Finally, I'm home and I'm sitting still. I started competing when I was 10, and all of a sudden, when I'm 30 years old, it's over. So what do you do when the cheering stops?
Tim was living his life as Tim, the star athlete, identifying with his success and enjoying the lifestyle of rich and famous. But on the inside, he had no idea who he really was apart from the sport. Up next, how Tim sabotaged his success and hit rock bottom before his waking up moment. We hear about the life in the fast lane, life of the celebrities. There's so much available to us. Did you get into all of that, or?
Well, one of the things that when I was a kid in my neighborhood, I saw a lot of alcohol abuse. And I always said to myself, because I watched my dad abuse alcohol, and I said to myself, I would never do that. I don't want to be like that. And I'm never going to be a drunk. I'm never going to be walking in the streets drunk like some of these people that I see. And be careful when you say never, because you get challenged with it. So in high school, you couldn't get me to drink alcohol, do drugs, any of that stuff. I stayed away from that stuff because I was so focused on my athletic career. But when I got to the University of Georgia after my freshman year, my sophomore year, I went to Georgia as my freshman year, and my name got big. And when you don't know who you are, your head starts to swell when people are patting you on your back all the time. And peer pressure's all around, and you got people trying to get you to do this. Try this, Tim. Try that. No. And finally, my sophomore year, I tried it. I tried alcohol for the first time, and I liked it. I liked the way it made me feel. Months later, when I blew my knee out my sophomore year in a game against Ole Miss, that alcohol opened up a door for me to try drugs. And when I got off of those drugs, which was cocaine, I tried it, and guess what? I liked it.
Yeah.
I had no idea the path that drugs and alcohol was going to set me on, even though it was very recreational and innocent. And when I got into the NFL and signed this huge contract, you didn't have to buy the stuff. It was there. It was given to you. You go to parties, you see marijuana, you see cocaine, you see pills, you see girls everywhere, all types of stuff. And so when you don't know who you are, how do you resist that? You go from, having a couple of $100 in your account, now you got $3.5 million in your bank account overnight. What do you do with that? When you're 21, 22 years old and you don't know who you are, you started something years ago that's now turning into a habit. Okay, you got people from all walks of life coming at you, wanting to know who you are. They really don't want you. They really don't care. They just want to be around you because of what you got and the position that you have. What do you do with that? And I always knew that I had leadership qualities, but when I stepped into that world, I began to follow people that didn't mean me well at all. And I never did this right here. I take full responsibilities for the choices that I made. But that path that I chose, one of the things that it did, it shortened my career in the NFL. I played 7 years, which I could have played 12 years. And it also, in the end, it almost destroyed my life. I lost everything. I found out that I really didn't have any friends. The people that were there when the money was good and the fame and then being on television all the time, they wasn't around anymore. I basically, when I lost everything, divorce and all that, had to move back home with my parents in North Carolina, so I went through a whole overhaul. And that's when I began to hear the Lord. It's amazing when we're on the mountaintop, can't hear him.
No, you can't.
Can't hear him.
So, but your waking up moment was a little bit public, as far as I understand.
Oh yeah. It was, I failed my first drug test and got my first DUI in 1991 when I was with the Steelers. And when that happens, that puts you in a system where you're getting tested every week. And then I ended up failing my second test because I didn't show up for the test. So that's an automatic positive. And then the third time, I didn't show up for that one because I knew I was positive. See, that's where I started to sabotage.
Right.
Let me go back a little bit. Let me tell you the story. I played for Chuck Noll 3 years, and I played for Bill Cowher 2 years in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And one of the things, when Chuck Noll retired in 1992, Bill Cowher came in. I was the first player that he called to his office. And he was agreeing with me. He was like, I understand, I watch you, I know your style. He said, I want to surround the offense around you. I want to give you the ball 35 times a game and let you do your thing. I said, okay. What did I do? When I got exactly what I wanted from the Steelers, what did I do? I went out and I sabotaged it. I went out and I got high because deep down, I was afraid of the opportunity and the responsibility that came with that. And so I sabotaged it. So I didn't show up for a test. So that suspended me for an entire season. And in 1992, I forfeited salary and incentives over $1.2 million. But I didn't have a problem.
Tell me about the jail experience.
You know, every person on the planet at some point, you have a defining moment in your life. And most defining moments are not anything we're proud of or positive or laughter or anything of joy. It's kind of horrific. And for me, 7 years ago, 2008, April 13th, started out April 12th. You know, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was very depressed and kind of suicidal. You know, didn't want to be around too much because I was just feeling I was a has-been and not too happy with myself. And I had started out that morning, because I used to journal a lot when I was depressed, and I still have my notes from my journal. And I said to the Lord, Lord, if you're real, show me who you are today, because I'm going out. And when I said I'm going out, I was saying I don't want to be here no much longer. And so I had started out that morning, April 12, 2008. I drank a case of beer within 2 hours and got in my car and drove downtown Atlanta in a little suburb called Smyrna. And I just said to the Lord, I said, show me who you are. Save me tonight if you're real. And I started out drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning, and this led all the way up to sports bars and stuff, hanging out with people. At 3:30 in the morning, I got in my vehicle and started to drive. I'm looking at the cops sitting over there parked. And as I'm walking to my vehicle, I waved to them, follow me, because I didn't want to live no more that night. And so 10 minutes later, I get pulled over, and I get out of the car. And I'm looking for an altercation with the police. I'm trying to give the cop a reason to take his gun and shoot me in my chest and put me away. That's how I felt. I was so depressed. And he was giving me commands, and I got irritated and frustrated with him, and he tried to put his cuffs on me. And when he tried to put his cuffs on me, I punched him. I swung and hit him upside the face. And because I was looking to die. And then he tried to spray with mace, and I turned my head, and as I was walking off, he hit me with that taser. And when he hit me with that taser, he must have had that thing up to 50,000 volts, because it dropped me like a bad habit. And I was about 250 pounds there, pumping iron and strong, and they got me on the ground, and they put the cuffs on me. The whole Smyrna police force was out there. And the great thing about it was they had an opportunity where they could have really hurt me, roughed me up or whatever, and they didn't do it. And they were very respectful toward me, even when I was disrespectful toward them. And I just look at that, when I look back, that was the hand of God. And so they took me to jail. I'm in jail at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting in a holding cell. And around the time 6:30, 7 o'clock rolls around, you know, the alcohol done wore off, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, man. And basically, I realized what just happened. God answered my prayers. He saved my life. He put an angel in a cop's uniform to stop me in my tracks to save my life that night. And if that wouldn't have happened, either I was going to kill somebody or somebody was going to kill me that night, because I was on a tear and I didn't care anymore. And the amazing thing is, God kept showing me in a vision in the year 2000. He showed me 23, the number 23. He kept showing it to me in a vision that he gave me. And I didn't realize I was going to spend 23 days in jail.
Wow.
And that's when I got on my knees and I repented and I asked God for forgiveness, and I rededicated my life to the Lord. And I said, Lord, until you open up that jail's door, I said I won't go anywhere. And on the 23rd day, a friend of mine came and got me.
Tim was afraid of the opportunity he had and the responsibility that comes with it, so he kept sabotaging his success with drugs and alcohol. Up next, how Tim's awakening is having a much bigger impact on people than his celebrity status ever did.
Since that day in 2008, God has radically changed my life. And the opportunities, there's more of an impact now on my life on other people than my athletic career. Because now it's about people see, and there's a lot of people know what I went through, what I put myself through. And to see me come back from that, they look at me different now. And one of my biggest fears was to stand up and speak in front of people. It's my passion now. And he's given me an opportunity to speak in front of thousands of people. He's given me an opportunity now to give back the things that I screwed up, areas that I almost destroyed my life. Now he's given me an opportunity to go back and help somebody else as a life skills consultant.
Yes.
You know, working with a lot of athletes, but not just athletes, working with people in general, just people, period. Because I understand, I know what it's like to be addicted to alcohol. I know what it's like to be addicted to drugs. I know what it's like to be addicted to a certain lifestyle, to women, to things that people tell us we're supposed to have or what we're supposed to be like or what's going to make us a man,
Right.
which was a lie. Even my family, they look at me different. It's almost like a fear that they have because they know I shouldn't be here with the way I used to live, but I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere until my purpose is completed.
You know what I always say as an immigrant, American spirit of being courageous and free, that's what brave and free means. To be courageous and free, to break that wall, to break that strength that the world wants us to have, to be who we are expected to be,
Right.
to break that and let the grace, which is with us all the time, to let it really soften our heart and open it so we can give and really heal not just ourselves, but the world around us.
Right.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for who you are
Thank you.
deep within. And thank you for being such a great example and great teacher and leader to so many young and old people out there. So much to learn from you. Thank you for your willingness to walk through it all and to say yes. And to say yes, to fall on your knees and cry and accept grace and love.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm standing up with just a song that I fall back on when everything goes wrong. When I can't raise my hands against the tide, when I'm as small as the world is wide, I will stand on my own feet, and I will go wherever they carry me. Storms will come, but I won't back down. This ship I sail won't run aground. I'm on the edge of caving in, from the smallest tremors to the faintest wind. When the earth is shaking where I stand, when I'm reaching out and no one takes my hand, well, I will stand on my own feet, and I will go wherever they carry me. Storms will come, but I won't back down. This ship I sail nothing can break a hopeful soul. I'm standing up with just a song that I will sing when troubles come along.
I hope Tim's story, like many others on this Waking Up in America show, are helping you to really break those walls and expectations of other people and become more of the person that you are meant to be. Connect with us at wakingupinamerica.net, and thank you so much for being with us.